Okay, so welcome to the Launch Express. Thank you for coming and spending time with all of this, with me, spending time submitting the questions that have been so good. I realized when I got off the live, well, my lovely husband reminded me. He was like, I don't think that was recording because I didn't get the notification that it was recording. So here it is, version 2. Don't worry, you'll get all of the juice still. Thank you so much for coming and watching the replay. Obviously, if you have any questions, like we're not doing the back and forth. So all of you that attended live, you just got like a really special live action. But if you have anything, I encourage you to write it down. And then when you're sorry, my puppy's just in the background trying to get out. He actually escaped today. Anyway, it's been a day. So if you have any questions, write it down. And if anything comes up, I would love to have a conversation with you. But if you're watching this, and you want to win something really, really cool as a way to say thank you for your time, if you want to pop this on your stories and tag me, you'll go into the draw to win 1 call and 2 weeks of WhatsApp coaching with me. So we can go over your launch plan, whatever business, deep dive into all things business, and my puppy's gone, so I'll be back. That's the good thing about recorded stuff, is I could have just cut that out. Anyway, feel free to also tell me your takeaways. Come into my DMs, and my love language is words of affirmation. So feel free to come in and spill whatever your thoughts, the good, the bad, I had a thought about this. Come in. I'd love to have a chat. Okay. In your head, because we're not doing this live, I would love to ask, why are you here today and what is your intention? Right? So you can pause and write that down. But I want you to take that frame into, like, as we go through the next few slides. It's probably going to be about an hour and a half, so around that mark. So let's go. So what we're going to go through: prep work, the offer, the launching, and then questions. The way that I have done it is I've kind of like sprinkled in questions throughout, so that we can break up, like, questions that you have submitted, so that I can break up the flow of it. And so it also relates to the theory that I've just covered in the previous bit. So hopefully that's okay. Well, I don't know why I'm saying it like you're here to respond, but yeah, so let's go. The reason, you'll notice that here, prep work, definitions and expectations. The reason I like to start with definitions is because words carry power, right? And I believe that there are emotions and energies attached to the words, and they are literally how we frame or how we describe the world that we are, like, describes our perception. Like, language is the thing that we use to communicate, and is the thing that is used to really shape our reality, right? And so why should we not go and seek to understand the thing that gives us framing and the ability to paint our external reality? I feel like sometimes we have, like, we don't set the ground, we don't set the expectation and, like, define the words, because what I define an offer to be versus what you define an offer to be could be vastly, vastly different. But if I don't set the tone going in and saying, this is how I define an offer, there could be a mismatch, and you'll go like, oh, wait, hang on, I didn't know that was. So I just wanted to make it so abundantly clear what I meant by an offer, but also a launch. So I'd like you to also take the time to reflect on what those words mean, and then it'll be cool to see if it matches up. If not, that's all good. I'm not saying my definitions are the only definitions, but since I am the one facilitating this workshop, I have to give my definitions. So just to give you an example of the power of words, if I said she was smiling versus she was beaming, I would say that the gist of the message is the same, but how different is the picture that we paint in our head, right? Our internal world is reflected in our external world. So the language that we use to describe ourselves, describe our internal environment, describe even in the internal dialogue matters a lot. And then the second thing for setting the scene, I want you to drop your egos and notice where things like, I already know this, comes up. Okay, I've totally been there before, totally been guilty of this, because it actually doesn't matter what you know. It actually matters how, like, it's my job today to make you care so much about the things that you do know moving forwards, whether that's you've learned from me or from before. I want you to care so much about that to actually start to integrate it, because we can start to accumulate knowledge for the sake of knowledge, but unless you're applying it, it actually doesn't matter if you know the thing or not. Right. And also, if there are some things in here where you're like, you already know and you know to do, but you're not doing them, why? Why or why not? Cool. So my definitions: offer is the vehicle through which you deliver a transformation, and launch is a setting the runway and environment for people to come into the offer. Most people think an offer is just one-on-one coaching or group programs or masterminds. However, the way that I talk about offer is very similar to a business, right? It's a vehicle through which you take people from A to B. And once people get a sense of who you are inside this offer, like, and this is where brand and offer awareness comes into it, your offer is the thing that people experience that then shapes their reputation, or like your reputation, because they're going to say certain things. So it's going to shape your reputation, which is your business, your brand. So your offers matter more than just the name, than just the fact that it's one-on-one coaching. The results that you get for people inside the offer will become your legacy, will become your business's reputation / brand. So we need to start looking at offers as a whole thing, as a whole vehicle. For example, a plane, right? There's going to be the name of the plane, how long the flight is, the deliverables, which is, do you get an on-flight on-flight meal? I don't know if that's how you say it. The structure, first class or economy, right? The transformations, who it's for, and the packaging, which is the messaging. And I'll argue that this is probably the most important, because it almost doesn't matter. Like, it matters, or it's just as important as everything else. Because if you can't clearly communicate who and what and how your offer does things to people, no one will want to come in, right? And there are going to be people, when we look at the plane analogy, no matter if it's like, no matter where they're going, they're going to have preferences. So for example, they might only fly Virgin or Qantas because of their previous, oh my gosh, my dog's just fighting, because of their previous experience flying, and it's informed a bias where they are now true fans of Virgin or Qantas, right? So they've built that loyalty to the brand. And that's almost what you want to do inside of your offers, is, given that anyone can come into your world at any time, are you giving them an opportunity to become obsessed with what you do, obsessed with your offer, because it actually goes above and beyond for them? And I'm talking 99% of consumers just want their expectations met, because the standard has been set so low. So even doing that 1% better is going to blow their mind. But yeah, you need to be really, really clear what is the expectation first and foremost to go and blow their mind. Cool. And something I want you to think about is, as well, does the transformation only start from the moment the offer begins? Most people think that the transformation is once they start working with me, and then it ends once they finish. But is it that straightforward? Right? The way that I like to think of it is, the moment the transformation begins is the moment they are presented with your offer, because in that moment, they are given the choice of whether or not they want to take the next step. They want to undergo this transformation, whether that is a yes or a no. Okay, so when you are like, and this is why the presentation matters, because we think that it's just, it only matters when it's being when people are going through it. But the transformation and the experience they get whilst you launch and present this offer is a part of the transformation. You don't just stop selling the moment that they buy into the program. you still continue to sell them to show up for themselves, to be accountable, to actually want to go through. Because those who go through are going to get the results, and therefore your offer is going to have a reputation of being something that gets other people results. And that's going to be your reputation. Right? The statistic is that 3% of people, 3% of courses, or people only go through 3% of courses. Like the completion rate is 3%, which is atrocious. Like, do you want that to be your reputation? So the selling occurs before the launch. You want people to care what it is that you have coming. During the launch, pay attention to what it is that you have presented, and then even after the offer starts or after the launch. Right? The launch is really just a moment in time in your head that signals this offer is ready for people to begin the transformation. Right, so going back to the airplane analogy, do you think the pilots and ground crew rock up on the day of their flight and hope that the plane's like, yep, she'll be right, and hope that it'll be able to take them from A to B? No, there's the prep work, and there's so much that they need to do in the lead up to it. So for whenever you want to launch the offer, you need to work back and go, what do I need to start looking at from day one? So going into the offers, starts with an idea and then starts with paying attention and market research, which can be controversial. And then going through the structure and transformation. Okay, so look, we either got into this work because we're cut from the entrepreneurial cloth. We're cut from like the bone of the very first entrepreneur, something like that. I'm trying to make a joke. Because we've just got that entrepreneurial spirit in us, right? Maybe you were a kid and selling fairy floss at school at a markup because your mom bought you a fairy, like a fairy floss machine. So you saw a gap in the market and you want to fill it. Or you got into this because you experienced a transformation yourself somewhere, or experienced something somewhere where you had a switch and you went, this is my life's calling. And maybe it's both. So I'm sure that you have an idea of what it is that you want to do for people. And now you just get to decide the vehicle through which you want to create for them to do that, right? For example, if the journey is, if they only have 45 minutes to go through the journey, and there are two options. They want to go from, let's say, Brisbane to Perth versus Brisbane to the Sunshine Coast. Where they want to end up is going to determine what offer you present. So what transformation you promise other people is going to define or is going to affect what vehicle you choose, right? That's going to affect the deliverables, how hands-on you are with them. That's going to affect the length potentially. Okay. Different vehicles obviously will have different benefits, will be presented in different ways, will have different purposes, and will ultimately appeal to different people. And so when it comes to starting with an offer and making sure that it actually stands out and people want to pay attention to this offer, you need to come across as different. Because good marketers know that better is not memorable. Different is memorable. You need to seek a point of difference. I literally don't care if that point of difference is in the outcomes that you provide, in your mission, right? And I'm going to make the example of like selling to a vegan versus meat, for example. The point of difference that a company like is led by a vegan female, for example, is going to probably appeal more to the vegan. And so that might be their point of difference. Now, I actually don't agree that it's just the fact that because it's you that it's different. Like, yes, you have a personal brand, but you actually need to seek to describe the difference. You can't just be like, no, I promise it's me, so it's different. You actually need to be able to describe what the difference is. So you need to put some care into this, like literally go and hang out. with the people who are going to go through your offer, and just see what's up. Like do a vibe check. You actually need to know what exists out there in order to know what you have to offer is different. Like, imagine a child drawing a picture of a horse with a horn on it and then going, I just created a whole new animal. Right? So you actually need to go and seek to understand what is already out there in order to be able to claim that you're different. And I'm not saying to know every single thing, every single one of the thousands of things that are out there, but you have to understand your clients. What would they have tried before? Are there commonalities? And then how can you be different to just what they've experienced? Right? Like, it's not like I'm saying the child is wrong for thinking that he invented an animal, because in his worldview he has, but how will he be perceived by the adults who are like, that's a unicorn, right? And this will play into your legacy, because any and every brand will have competitors, and you don't need to get caught up in the comparison, in the fact that, oh, they're doing the same thing as me, but you do need to understand what they're offering and what's going on inside of your industry, because that's actually how you form your opinions. How will you know whose opinions you don't agree with if you don't even know who's out there? And I'm going to make this example, which is a specialist versus a generalist, right? A surgeon, a brain surgeon, is known just as much for what they can do as what they can't do, or as for what they don't do. They are known for being able to perform brain surgeries as much as they are being known and defined by the fact that they don't just check out a general cold. And that's what makes them specialists. That's what makes them specialists. And so you need to know what's out there, quote unquote, your competitors. And it's actually even good to have a nemesis, because then that's how you first form your polarizing opinions. You need to know the opinions of others to know whether or not your opinion is polarizing. Okay, so pay attention to what's going on before other people will want to pay attention to you. And this is really crucial to marketing, because marketing is just a conversation, but why should they participate in the conversation with you? It is your job to understand what's out there. So you literally can just go, and it's so accessible nowadays to go straight to the horse's mouth and ask, where are they at currently? You know, what is their ideal outcome? What are their main struggles? And yes, whilst you are the person facilitating the transformation, providing the service, coaching, whatever, you are going to be the ones ultimately deciding what they do, because you know best. But you also need to know what they think they need and what they think they want in order to communicate why they should care about what you say. Because people will only care if you show that you care about them. They will only care about you if you show that they care about them. So you need to go and seek them out. And like, this is literally like the way I see sales and marketing is that it's a conversation. Go and seek feedback. It's not I'm just going to talk about my offer. Go and seek feedback. Go and seek what other people are saying right now. Okay, and sometimes it's actually even good to know what other people are experiencing, because whilst our life is revolved around the thing that we provide for other people, and that's our business, they probably have a million things going on. Like how you come across in your messaging is really, really important. You need to know what's going on in their lives outside of just the thing that you want to sell them, outside of the area through which you provide a solution. So for example, if you sell health and fitness coaching, you need to know what's going on in their lives outside of their health and fitness. How their family, how's their relationship with their partner, how are their kids? You know, we can't just build something and hope that they will come. And I really, really hope, if you take anything away today, is don't be afraid to ask. I feel like there's a misconception that you shouldn't ask what your audience wants, because that's not true leadership. But you actually need to start from a place of knowing so deeply what it is that they want and what they truly need to provide that initial solution for them, which will build the foundational trust that they can have in you to then go, okay, where to next? And then that's when you can be like, I would say you go here or here or here. Right. But when you show that you're listening and you care about them and you've solved their problem first, besides just going, you should do this because I think it, and it's my opinion, it allows them to trust you and trust whatever else that you come up with. And this is the big part about creating a community who's bought into you. You need to show that you trust, that they can trust you and that you're trustworthy. So literally, doing like market research could be asking your existing audience, hey, I am creating X, Y, and Z, having three options. Something that solves this problem, something that solves this problem, something that solves this problem. What is going to help you the most at this time? Don't be afraid to ask. That way you are still leading because you're saying these are the three problems that I see being presented the most. But let's open up a conversation about what you think you need right now. And that's going to tell you so much about the current context of your ideal clients. And it'll give you so much context when it comes to creating your offers. Right? The real transformation in any offer is actually in the shift in the beliefs that you're going to provide for your ideal clients going through the experience. And that can start with what they think they need. And that could just be marketing material right there. What do they think they need? Go and get it from their mouth and tell them lovingly, educate them, show them that that's actually not what they need, that there's a better way. And the reason I can say this, like I can sit here today and preach about this, not preach about this, but like come at it from this angle because I've seen both sides. I was so immersed in this world that I've invested over 300K to this point, right? So I've seen both worlds, a world of no market research and just create what you want to create versus the other side, which is like traditional bro marketing side, which is so much about the market research and presenting offers in a certain way and all of this. I've seen both sides and I think that there is a happy middle. But what really got me was how through my 300K of investing, how often I was dissatisfied with what I had been presented. So like the offer versus the actual delivery. And so I don't want that for any of you. I know we're here to create a legacy. I know like your work means so much more than just the short-term income. So if you actually care about that, we need to start looking at how are we actually going to deliver the transformation? Like I didn't set out for this to be my life's work to talk about offers and this. I just thought I'm going to be a doctor. But now all of a sudden, instead of just having a map and a compass guiding me, going, I'm going in this direction, you're actually providing your clients, just as my experience did, like the roads and the paths that they should be taking towards their end goal, because it's going to feed into my vision for my business and my future. And that's also why it became clear to me that my business needed to do this for others, because I think that there can be a middle between not listening to what people want versus only giving what people want, because I think that's where innovation lies. And your business is a vehicle for you to do that. With the structure and the delivery or the transformation, really give it some care into thinking about how is it going to be delivered, right? Where is the start point of your clients, and then where is the end point, and how are you actually going to get them there? I'm not saying to offer a guarantee, but if you had to offer a guarantee, what would you need to put inside of your offer to be able to confidently back that? Like no results, no pay sort of guarantee. And I wouldn't worry too much about a framework because over time you will develop language for it, but I would rather you start off and make sure that what you're presenting has been tested, even if it's by yourself, before you come in and say, I have an X, Y, and Z framework. Like, I don't think we should be creating frameworks for the sake of creating frameworks. Okay, it's okay to let that come. And so you need to look at, like, with all of this is really setting the ground or setting the scene for you to solve the problems that your ideal clients are going through, or at least spend the time before the launch convincing them why they should care about the problems that you're now saying that they should care about. Yeah. Like if it is not directly what they think they need, like for example, someone might be thinking, I want to lose weight, but you know that that's not the problem. You need to spend time around convincing or educating them on why that's not what they actually want. Okay, and your job once again doesn't stop once they join the offer. How can you continue to sell them so that they actually want to participate and go through the experience? Not just for your reputation's sake, but for their sake as well. Where do you need to add little pushes and like show more love in your offer? Where can you start to anticipate people will start to drop off? And like thinking about, are you giving them enough space whilst also providing enough guidance to be able to do it their way whilst being held accountable to you and the thing they've invested in? Is there even room for that? That's something to consider. So all of this is going to inform the way that you present the offer, as well as what even needs to go into the offer, right? Like go and ask, and then take some time and some care into how you're going to deliver it, how you're going to structure it. Don't aim, and this is, I was pretty proud of this when I came up with this. Don't aim to be the best in your industry yet. Be the best at what you promise you can do for others. Your offer is essentially going to make a promise. Be the best at that promise. Because what can happen when we try coming out the gate as a newbie and go, I'm the best at this in my industry. It can come up in so many problems can come up. We can experience imposter syndrome, right? And we might be forced to make some ridiculous claims about what we can offer people, what we can promise people, because we have to then live up to the I'm the best, right? But I'd rather you be honest and meet yourself where you're at and go, what promise can I stand behind, and how can I be the best at that promise? And then over time, that's going to, the size of the promise is going to get bigger and bigger, and you will become the best in your industry. Okay, but you have to be best first at what you promise you can do for others. So mistakes I see: making an offer that helps everyone, assuming what people will and will not pay for, and then not getting feedback on the offers and the ideas in the validation. Third one might not be so much a mistake, but it's something that I'm like so many people I see scratch offers because they're like, it does, or like scrap offers because they're like, it didn't work. The launch failed, so it mustn't be a good offer. No, like what if it was just a messaging problem, a packaging problem? What if people who wanted X, Y, and Z solution don't actually want one-on-one time? So you need to go back and actually go and get feedback on that. Okay. The first mistake, making an offer that helps everyone. I know we've all been there. It's like, I can help anyone who has a heartbeat and who has 2 arms and 2 legs and is healthy. I can help everyone. But the thing with this is that humans want to feel special. So you actually need to single them out. You actually need to solve a problem that they think is unique to them. Right? So where they think, oh, only I go through this. The paradox with this is when we speak to the one person, or when we get really, really specific, it actually becomes really, really universal. So an example: rappers and musicians. All they're doing in their music is talking about, like, I'm not saying rappers aren't musicians anyway, but all they're doing in their music is just describing a very specific experience they had in their lives, yet it resonates with 3 million people across the world, for example. Taylor Swift, she's literally writing about her life, her breakups. And then there's like 50 million people across the world who are like, oh my gosh, same. You know, like the more specific you get, the more people you actually start to talk to. So you have to talk to one person in your mind's eye. And then following on from that, not being able to articulate what it actually does, because if you help and offer for everyone, you're always going to be, well, it depends if it's like for a mom or if it's, no, you need to be so clear on what the transformation is for that person, where they're currently at. So having empathy for their current state, what their desired or their future goals are, the logistics and the why. You need to be able to explain all of that concisely. And then so that's why making it for the one person will really help. 2, just because you think you know something, like just because you know it so well, and because we probably have a knack for it or a skill, we assume that other people know and that it's just common sense. And so we create offers that we think are stuff that we don't know, but then we go and try and learn because we're like, this will, like, other people won't know this. That's not the case, right? Never assume that other people know what you know. And if you can present it in a way, even if they know it, what's stopping them from knowing it even more? And that's where your messaging comes in. Like, you actually can't control what people do or do not do. You could have the best messaging, and if it doesn't resonate with someone, they're not going to buy it. But if you can nail the messaging, even those who might not need it will think it's a really good offer and would be tempted. Like, I've definitely sat there with offers going, man, this messaging, the crafting of this offer has been so thoroughly thought out that I want to join. But it's not even relevant to me. You need to make it that good. And I know that you can do it. And then 3, not getting validation comes more so like in the launch, because that's where you'll experience it. But that's where you also get to be flexible in the launch, which we'll go into, to make sure that you're adapting to the feedback, to the responses that you're getting. Because if sales and marketing is a conversation, you need to be listening to the feedback, to the responses. Okay. Like, everything that you collect is data, from the engagement to the kind of DMs that people are sending you, to what posts are being received the best by your audience. Because sometimes it's not actually about the offer itself again, it's just packaging and the messaging. And that is the test that you will need to do. Like, usually, like, I trust that you know what it takes to get someone from point A to point B, and I trust that you think it's what they need, and truly, like, it could be, but are you communicating that? Okay, so some questions I got around this was, I'm always wondering how I can make the offer stand out from other people in my niche. Although I think this might overlap with personal branding, there's already a million courses out there. How can I set my course apart from them? So this is most likely going to be a positioning problem. Okay, are you selling them into the difference? Is there a difference? Okay. And something else to think about is as well, like, people don't actually just buy solutions to problems. They buy a mission. They want to be a part of something greater than themselves. So are you tying your offer into the mission of your business so that it makes it feel like they're supporting something bigger than them? An example I got in the live workshop this morning was, how will you make like a plastic fork stand out? Well, what's the difference? And it doesn't literally need to be, this is the best fork in the world, but no, it could be for every one packet of forks bought, we donate $1 to X, Y, and Z charity. That could be the difference. And that's also an example of selling them into the mission. What is the greater purpose of buying the fork? You're not going to sell, it's going to make your food taste so much better. It might, if that's a feature, but don't promise what it's not. and everyone can teach you to lose weight. But if your mission involves empowering humans after they've lost the weight to have the confidence to get what they want, the relationships, the jobs, then that's your positioning. That's your difference. I'm not just a weight loss coach. I'm someone who cares about your life after weight loss. Right? You need to know, and this is where knowing who your main competitors are is really important. Because you can't just target the millions out there. You need to, but you can start with who are the top dogs in your industry? Who are the ones that people are likely have already experienced that you can stand out from? That you can create that difference. So something to think about is like, who comes to mind when you think of your industry? And then how can you make yourself, like, set yourself apart from them? So 2, how to make sure my offer will massively help anyone that buys it. Because personally, if I'm not confident my offer is even going to be helpful, I'm going to have a hard time marketing it and talking about it. Yeah. So I'd ask, is there an element of truth to this? Because sometimes we learn something cool for the first time and we go, I want to teach this. And then we take everything that we have learned, put it into a course to try and sell it. Of course, you don't know if it's going to help because you haven't even tested it. But if you have tested it, then that should be proof enough. Right? That should be proof enough. Like, people forget the power of stories, the power of connection. Like, songwriting is just stories with a musical element to it. The power of your story and your transformation, even if it's the first time, is powerful enough to use as evidence, and then use that to be like, it's worked for me. Now, there are some things where it's like, you don't want to make sure, you want to make sure that you're not just like, it's worked for me, so it will work for you, especially for things like in business, I believe. But you need to have the framework, the principles tested. And this all comes back to understanding the principles, not just the hacks. Hacks are always changing, but marketing has been around for ages. The principles haven't changed. It's just the way that we apply them have changed. But if you can understand the principles, it allows you to be agile and flexible in your approach in business or with anything. So has the framework, have the principles been tested? Yeah. Then 3, how to effectively conduct market research that will actually be useful in creating the offer. So this, we kind of covered this, but asking the right questions. What are they currently going through? Where do they want to go? What are their biggest struggles? What have they tried in the past? And use their language. Because sometimes we use really, really fancy language because we've learned it, but you actually need to speak to them the way that they would speak. That's what copywriting is. And we are all marketers. As much as we can speak the way that we speak, we also need to speak in a way that resonates with other people. And if you're presenting an offer, that is one of the only times that you want to be, or one of the most important times you want to be resonating with other people. Right? So an activity, I want you to think about this because I'm going to go a lot more into this throughout the rest of the presentation. But reflect on the last time that you made an investment or a decision. What was the thing that made you pull your trigger, and what were your thoughts kind of leading up to it? Because I'll give you an example, because this leads into 2. I'm drawn in by looking at someone's accomplishments and achievements, but I'll be sold on the decision based off of the data and the logistics. Now, you might be different. You might be drawn in because someone's your favorite creator, and like, you'll buy anything and everything that they put out. Right? And the point is to highlight that, like, you will have different buyer types in your audience. You need to start talking to them. Your buyer types being expressive, amiable, driver, and analytical. And the mistake that I see a lot of people make is they'll speak to everyone, and this is more of a sales conversation, but they'll speak to everyone the way that they like to be spoken to. So I will naturally gravitate towards numbers and accomplishments because that's the way that I make decisions. But there are going to be people in your audience who want a different style of communication. It's like a love language. It's like we tend to communicate in our own love language. But you actually need to start to, like, if you care about the other person, you need to take note of their love language so that you can, like, match their frequency, match the communication there. And something that you can do in, like, to assess what kind of buyers you have. So data, logistics, and numbers, ROI, these are more analytical people. People who are more like drawn in by credentials, experience, and achievements are your driver buyers. C are the support and C, the support and the community, because they're really like herd animals. I would say they're like very much about people pleasing, making sure that the decisions they make are received well by others. Right. So they want to see that like other people approve of the decision, which social proof is the biggest thing. If you've got a community, that means 10 people already said yes. Right. And then D is the person. So these are expressive buyers. These are the buyers that you can actually intentionally cultivate. And so they become obsessed with your work. But you have to give them a reason to become obsessed. There's something that you can do is literally go back through the conversations and the DMs and the stuff that you have received, the messages, and like ask yourself, like, okay, where would they likely lie? Because if you get more messages when you're presenting offers that are like, what are the call times? You've probably got more of an analytical buyer. Or if they're coming in like, I really admire how you did this and I want to do the same, they're probably more driver buyers. Or if they're coming in with, I'm not really sure what I want, just browsing, blah, 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 they're a little bit of a hot mess. These are your amiable buyers. And then you've got the people who are like, of course I'm in, I don't even need details, it's you. Those are your expressive buyers. Yeah, so it's a cool little thing to take note of. And you might find that you like tend to draw in more of one kind because of the way that you communicate. It's not because there aren't other types of people in your audience. It's just because of the way you communicate, you're activating those type of people. You're calling forward those type of people. So something like you could even just test, how can you lean into talking about different aspects? Okay. So launching 3 parts: the prep, attention, influence, and relationships. And for those who attended live, yes, I changed relationships because I wanted to like narrow it down for you. But the prep work is really what you're doing in the offers, going and understanding the people you are serving. And again, going into this, I would ask that you remain flexible and open to listening, because it's a conversation. Be open to listening to the response that you're getting. Because if your messaging isn't landing, then you need to readjust. You need to be agile. Think on your feet a little bit. Okay. First part of a launch, besides the prep, after the prep, is really like this can happen at the same time, really. But like I would say that this is what you kind of need to focus on, the order of which you need to focus on. First one being attention. So I'm pretty sure that all of us are posting on social media in some form, right? And we think that putting out content is just enough. But content is actually very different to marketing because there are different intentions. Content is sharing about something, educating about something. Marketing, and there can be overlap for sure. Marketing, I see it as trying to initiate a conversation where basically you're telling people to pay attention to you. Like content messaging or content for the sake of content might land with a bigger group of people than your marketing content. And that's perfectly okay because you're trying to initiate the conversation with that smaller group of people. And like trying to get attention through like visibility. So different platforms, PR sprints, going like collabs, all of these things. It also comes from, I believe, like a switch in behavior, in your behavior. Like, you need to start walking around like you're the bee's knees, because no one will pay attention to you if you don't believe you are worth paying attention to. And that's where having conviction behind your offer and knowing that it is actually a good offer is going to come in really, really handy, because you're gonna walk around confident that you can do what you promise other people that you'll do for them. And another good way that I see like that is more so in the influence and relationships, but I added it here, stories, because there are ways that you can tell stories to get attention, to get people to pay attention, and is also a way of connecting to people to get their attention. I've said attention way too many times. Anyway, so visibility looks like multiple different touch points across different platforms, and touch points is really just a chance for you to connect with your community and engagement. So podcasts, emails, downloadables, freebies, masterclasses, these are all different touch points to show that you're loving on them and that you aren't going to leave, because you are now creating the safety, enveloping them, for example, being omnipresent, so that they know you're not going to leave them. How can they trust you to deliver the transformation for them if you can't even show up for your business consistently? And this is where you get to give that safety to them. And in psychology, it's known as the mere exposure effect. So being everywhere, like, it automatically just increases trust with your audience. And also the norm of reciprocity, which is just giving them free stuff that actually helps, making connection points with them. And no one is above the free things, because the free things build your brand equity. Right? Something else in the attention, you need to look at where the other person's attention is at right now, because there are going to be different stages at which they'll pay more or less attention to you. If they don't even know how they have the problem that you're saying that you solve, they're less likely to pay attention to you than someone who knows they have a problem, who knows the solutions, and knows that you're the one providing them the solution. So this is where the different stages of awareness come in. You've got people who don't know they have the problem. You have the people who know they have the problem but don't know the solution. You have people who know the solution and are now browsing for options. And then there are the people who, like, are browsing for options and have kind of like singled you out, or like made a list and you're in the final cut, right? Understand different pieces of content are going to speak to different people at different stages of their attention, of their awareness. So influence. The when, what, why, where, and how. Basically, a really cool way to show people why they should care. So we all know by now that telling and educating around the offer and the problem is a given when it comes to launching. But are you just doing it in a plain way, in like a really boring way? Because with great attention comes great responsibility, which is with attention, you need to try and keep the attention. Are you telling stories? Are you telling the reasoning, the why behind your offer, or behind you, the business, the mission, that shows them, hey, I should actually listen to this person. Not just I'm going to observe what this person does, but I'm going to care about what they're doing. And this is where you really get to lean into your strengths. Is it sarcasm? Is it wit? Is it humor? Right? Being influential means that they should pay attention to you. So you need to highlight you, the strengths of you. Right? And then going into the when, what, why, where, and how. Like, why did you create the program? Why did you create the offer? How did you become the expert, or how did you overcome the problem yourself? What problems does it solve, and how? And when? Like, so when did you go through this? When did you learn this? Your experience and your credentials, and also where does this fit into your mission? what is your story behind the offer, and how does that tie back into your business? All of these are like really, really important because it sells them on the program, on the offer, and it sells them on you. So like people don't just want to buy into a solution anymore. They want to buy a mission. They want to feel like they're doing something greater than bigger than themselves. Yeah. So this is where it gets a feed into your legacy. And then 4, which is the relationships. Something I see so often is once we start to identify as this authority role, when we start to market our offers, we stop doing the things that originally got the attention in the first place, which is the connection piece. Because we think that, okay, I should just talk about offers, and if they're ready, they should come to me. No, are you still doing the things to build a relationship? Most people during launches, the relationship stays the same, and they think that you can either build your relationships or you can make money. I think that the launch is a perfect opportunity for you to deepen both, for you to deepen the relationships as well as make money. Right? Are you still interacting with your audience just because you're in a launch, or are you making it weird because you're like, I don't want them to perceive me as trying to do, like, are you still doing the things that got you their attention in the first place by caring about them, by paying attention to them? Are you also showing them what kind of leader you are and what conversations that you will be having when they come into closer proximity with you? Right? And also, are you giving them a chance to be rewarded for being a fan, for being a part of your community early on? People love that feeling of exclusivity. And this is where, like, you can give them a chance. Are you giving them a chance on, like, for example, pre-sales to reward their commitment to you and your business? Yeah. Questions that I got for this. The idea of warming your audience. What's the minimum length of time you recommend before actually launching? So this is a really good question. It depends on your audience. Really, really depends on your audience and the feedback that you're getting. So the data, what are your inbound leads? Right? How many people are actually inquiring? What's your post engagement like? Right? You went through, let's go back, you went through that visibility stage. Are you getting more visible? Are you getting more people seeing your stories, seeing your stuff, coming to your profile? Are you getting more people caring about what it is that you do? And are you building more relationships with more people, like DMs and all of that, comments? All of this should factor in, because someone could launch something in 7 days. Some other people might need 12 weeks. So it really, really depends. And you are always warming your audience. You are always, always, always warming your audience. And this goes back to not stopping the things that got you the attention and the influence in the first place. You're warming your audience here. And so just because you're launching something doesn't mean that you stop warming the audience. Because if new people are constantly coming in, you need to always constantly be warming them as well. So launching is like a set of activities almost on top of what you're doing, or certain activities switch in intent, but you should still be warming your audience throughout. 2, how to not come off as too salesy when promoting / marketing an offer, or is sounding salesy even a bad person? This is a really good question. So if you see sales and marketing as a conversation, which I would like to believe that I've convinced you to think of it that way. It's a conversation. Sometimes the free conversation can only do so much for someone. Right? Like, have you ever had that moment where, like, I don't know if you've had this, but I've definitely had this, where like I've been with certain mentors, I've paid them a lot of money, and they'll say something to me in public, in private. And that would have a profound effect on me. And then I'll go and see them say the same thing in a public setting on their social media. And you just see her like kind of like not really landing with people. Well, they brush it off. Right? And I can sit here all day and preach about how you can create different streams of income or create a 7-figure income for yourself. But unless you have skin in the game with me, and unless you actually think that I also have skin in the game with you in terms of I understand your business intimately, or I understand X, Y, and Z, or I understand that you've got that exception because I know it's going to your head where she doesn't know because I've got this commitment and that commitment. Unless we've got skin in the game together and we're committed to each other, the free conversation naturally has a point to which it stops being valuable. That point is going to look different for everyone. Right? And some people are just meant to experience the free stuff because that'll be enough to experience for them to get the value. But I would ask, is everyone able to benefit from the free stuff? And also on the flip side, I see it as it is your responsibility. If you put content out there, it's your responsibility to be able to take them to the next level and serve them at the next level and to initiate that conversation. Because if you have made the choice to put content out there that's going to get people thinking about their lives, because now you're going, hey, you thought that this was a problem, but it's actually this, or have you ever thought that this was actually a problem and you just brush it off, and you're bringing up stuff that they haven't considered before, and you're getting them thinking about their lives and thinking about you, you also need to be able to shoulder the responsibility to take that to the next level with the people who are ready to buy from you specifically. Right? Because some of the stuff that we put out there can be triggering. So I actually don't think you can just dust your hands off and be like, yep, cool, you're on your own now. In my opinion, it is your obligation to continue the conversation. And it's not about the conversation of being like, you can only get this if you pay me. It's actually just an invitation for like, hey, if my stuff resonated with you and it called out to you in some way and you actually want to walk together in this next part of your journey, I would be so honored because you are one of the ones who initiated that dialogue for them. So you must be willing to shoulder the responsibility of continuing the dialogue. Like there are people who can take your free stuff and run with it, but I actually don't believe like 100% that everyone can do that. How many freebies have you downloaded? That's just a good place to start. And this comes back to what I said in the beginning. I don't care how much you know. I want you to care so much about what you know to actually implement it from today. I care that you care enough about implementing. You care enough about your work that you'll actually go and implement this, even though it's, yeah. Even though you might already know it. My job is to convince you to take action on the things that you know. Then 3, how to build a strong community that makes them automatically want to buy whatever I launch. So this is a good question because this goes back to the buyer types. And it's definitely a conversation worth having, but it's more of a sales conversation. But essentially it comes back to understanding how humans think. Right? So humans really just want to be seen, like truly, truly seen. And they also, paradoxically, want to be a part of a herd because they don't want to stand out. And you may have heard this as well. We are creatures of habit. Humans are creatures of habit. So the logical conclusion is that you want to make consuming your stuff and engaging with you and your business a part of their habit, like a habit of theirs, a part of their routine. And you do this by making them feel seen and like encouraging them to be a part of this herd or this community that you're building. Okay, so when we break this down, it comes down to repetition, ritual, so like giving them a reason to be a part of your community, and then engaging back with them, showing that you care. This will take time if, for example, predominantly you've got more buyers who are analytical, because this type of buyer is more of the expressive type buyer. If you've naturally got more analytical buyers in your audience, it's going to take time, but you can definitely cultivate it over the time. There is the other side to this, which I will speak to, which is that sometimes you can build a community that will want to buy whatever you launch. And that is because we like to chase and become obsessed with things that we know are currently out of our reach. Most people are. So there is actually a tactic with being standoffish, which is why like F-boys are really good at what they do, using it as an analogy, because it's a tactic if you know how to wield it like well. I would say that most people don't know how to do it properly, and like you're better off just caring about people, because that's a surefire way. Now, something to consider is something called like a beta offer. So this can be helpful when determining whether or not your offer actually solves a problem for your clients before you go and create the thing. And I see this having the most utility for like agency or service providers, or a good idea for like for a coach or a consultant or whatever, if you want to create a signature offer. Right? And that's because you want to give your community an exclusive chance to try this new thing that you've created for them, to test the different parts of it, and you have to give them incentives. Test the desirables and the pain points that you'll touch on in the marketing, and see if your audience even wants it before you go and create that thing. So when you do this, you are giving them an incentive to join, whether that's a discount or freebies or like bonuses, but you're giving them incentives so that you can get feedback to run it better next time and at a higher price point if you want. Not all models are going to benefit from this, especially more like live launching. So if you've got a new offer every single month, because the cycle through which you get the first round of feedback to the next round is like usually 12 months. But if you've got an offer that you want to run multiple times a year and you want it to become known as like part of your, like it has a standalone brand, that offer is a good idea to run as a beta test the first time you run it. And it also shows people that you care, because you're running something that and you're seeking their feedback. So launching, it's not a big thing, because from little things, big things grow. And we all know it's just like little things compound over time. Micro commitments, being consistent with allowing your audience to make micro commitments to you, piquing their interest. So something that my husband does, which I said on the live call, which is like, don't do this to new people in your audience, but he will cut off sentences midway because he wants you to think about, he wants other people to think about him. And obviously he can only do it with the people who can, who have that sort of relationship with him. Okay, so this is where you get to test the warmth of your audience. Like, so even putting up like engagement stickers on your stories, right? This is the type of data that you would look at if you just want to look at the data perspective. It can also be, what are people saying to you in the DMs? Are they telling you stuff that you're then just disregarding? Are they saying, I really want to join this, but I can't afford it? Is that something now, like a conversation that you need to be having back with them, but on a public front? Right? Like, are you actually seeking the little things, the little inputs that they're giving you as well? Other things to look at. What posts of yours got more shares or saves? Because this will tell you a lot about the things that your audience wants to see from you. And whilst I think you should put out content that you feel like will benefit them, you also need to listen. So you could even address it. Hey, I noticed the other day when I put out this post, it did better. Here's why that type of post X, Y, and Z, and then give your opinions on it. So start to cultivate an audience. Don't just go, they don't understand. teach them. Be patient with them. Because from little things, big things grow. Questions I got around what we have covered so far. I feel like people won't be willing to pay my price and I won't be able to convey the value to them. The big one with this is, are you clear on the value that you bring? First of all. And second of all, sometimes with pricing, we actually just need to price it at a point that we can back. Because I would rather you do something, put out something once and go, I really want to charge 3,000, but I only feel comfortable charging 2,000. I'd rather you put out that 2,000, get a sale, and then go, now I think I can back 3,000, and then increase your price. Then to come out the gate being like 3,000, and then when someone gives you pushback, you're like, you start to wilt under that pressure, and then you come in with like, oh my gosh, no, but I can do like extended payment plan and all of that. So if you're going to wilt under a higher price and can't confidently back it, that could be a pricing issue. But it also could be, are you clear on the value that you bring? Right? And then second, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to sell without sales calls. Like, will people really say yes after having a convo in the DMs? This is an excellent question. I'm getting, like, today, you guys just hit it on the mark. Just like the questions are so good. Do you feel like you understand sales enough to be able to communicate in the DMs? Because people have closed super, super high ticket in the DMs. But you might not even be able to close something worth $100. Because DM closes are really just like sales calls, but on steroids. You need to be able to get to like the point, directly to the point, no fluff. And are you prepared to do that? Do you understand the process enough to guide them from point A to point B so that you're not having a million back and forths in the DMs? That's what I'm saying. Sales calls, you've got the time to sit there and to explore and to like sometimes lose your way, but then you find it. Okay, but with DMs, you need to be straight to the point. So do you understand the sales process enough? And then something I wanted to bring up, which is like, I said this morning all throughout the workshop, don't just take my word for it. When I present things, question it against what you know. And that goes for everything that you hear. Question the information that you get. Because sometimes we can take things and we can just go, I'm going to take this and run with it. But you actually don't think about your own actions. So I want you to be a critical thinker when it comes to this. Okay, like where is the resistance from to sales calls coming from? Is it because you've heard a big name coach saying, I don't do sales calls and you shouldn't because it's not scalable? Right? Where did you hear these things? And then why do you do things the way that you are, that you do them? And also, like, if it's a huge investment, think about yourself. Like, if you were to make the equivalent of 100K investment into yourself, would you not want to talk to the person on the other end just as a, hey, I'm doing this, or like to celebrate, or to like have some reassurance, maybe have some final questions? Like, would you not want that for yourself? And even if you don't, what if other people need that? Like, why are we so against sales calls? And what if we stop calling them sales calls, but just a conversation to lead them to an empowered decision, whether that's a yes or a no? Right? Think about your actions. So I've put together a little rough launch timeline. Now I want to stress that this is not the be all and the end all. But this kind of starts like a process of what I was kind of showing. So start of your launch, you want to really, really focus on visibility. And then you want to give the people who are in your community like a special, a reward, a thank you for being around. You don't always have to do this, but this is generally like if you want to do it by the book, or like a good way in terms of like from a psychological point of view. You're reciprocating. You're saying thank you for sticking around. And you're also having multiple touch points. So you're staying top of mind. Downloadables, freebies, masterclasses, workshops, all of these things. Right? And you'll see that it's ongoing, because the point of this is that there's no set Like there's not a set amount of time. Again, 7 days to 12 weeks to a year. Right? It just depends on how many touch points you want to put in that you can realistically get in, what your goals are, and also what is the response from your audience? What are you hearing back from them? And this is also why you need to consider your offer as a part of the longer time frame that is like a part of your business. Because you continue selling the offer even after people have come in. Because you have to prep for next round. And the way that I put it is, this launch is giving you the lessons you need for the next launch. And the next launch is giving you the lessons you need for the next launch. Similarly in business, this current 3-month block is giving you the lessons, is teaching you the lessons for the next 3-month block, and then the next 3-month block. Or if you're a little bit crazy like me, 12-month block. What is this current 12-month block teaching you? And how's it setting you up for the next 12-month block? Okay. And then depending on like the interest of your audience and what the response is, put in pre-sales, put in bonuses, put in challenges, check where you need to do a bit of a PR sprint, check where you need to bring more people into your audience to hit your goals, right? It's a conversation. Actually listen to what they're saying back to you. So, question, when launches don't go to plan, what data can we collect from this launch? What things would you assess or look to change for the next launch? So in general, I'll look at content 30 to 90 days out. Look at your content 30 to 90 days out. And that's everything that you put out, from emails to posts to masterclasses, all of that, as well as during the launch. Like, did you actually have enough touch points? Because sometimes we can feel like we've done enough, but like, look at the actual facts. Did you have enough touch points? And then what type of content did you put out? So going back to the buyer types, did you put out content that could apply and that could resonate with each of these different types of buyers? Yeah. Like, did you, and then sometimes also we label launches as failed or not to plan because it hasn't hit a specific number. So if you actually got people in, look at the people who came in. What type of buyers came into your launch? Because that's going to tell you a lot. And were you diligent in listening for the feedback that your audience is giving you? For those who didn't come into your program or offer, what were the objections? Did you then continue the conversation with them, or did you just kind of like wilt at the objections because they're like, I can't afford it, and then you went, oh yeah, no worries? No, did you actually continue the conversation with them? For all of the things that people say to you, that's a piece of content that you can create. That's another part of the conversation you can initiate them into. And something that we're all guilty of is we tend to speak to buyers the way that we like to buy, just like love languages. We like to show love the way that we ourselves like to receive it. So notice, did you actually like be brutally honest with yourself? Did you actually speak to different types of people? And then when you actually assess like the different parts of the launch, did you do each of these well enough? Did you spend enough time creating an offer that people actually want, getting the feedback? Are you measuring? Okay, let's say you're trying to increase visibility. Is your visibility actually increasing? Like, we can be doing stuff that boosts visibility, but did it actually increase it? Look at that data. Are you getting more people caring about what you're doing, tapping into you? Are you getting more people responding to you and engaging with you? These are all things, data points that we can use to be like, cool, what can I change for next time? And it's also something that if you're flexible on the go in the launch, start to refine. If you're doing stuff with visibility, but your visibility isn't increasing, start to refine what you're doing. 2, yeah. So actually I wanted to talk to this as well, because often we'll set a goal for ourselves for a launch, and we'll think that we'll fail because we haven't set that goal. I want you to see it as data. We need to stop attaching so many emotions to numbers. And we actually also need to treat our offers with more respect than we do, than writing it off as a fail. Imagine Coca-Cola having a factory full of supplies, and then they run an advertising campaign that generates zero sales, or maybe 1 or 2 or like 10 on a really, really small scale, and they don't hit the number that they were expecting. Do you think failing is an option for them? Or do you think they're going to go, what did we do this time? And then refine, right? Because sometimes it's easier to say, oh, this launch failed. It must be the offer. Let's start again with the offer. But if we're always starting again from ground zero, we're never going to get momentum. We're never going to gain momentum. And momentum isn't gained from rewriting all of the foundations and starting all over again. It's from looking at one piece, tightening that up. Okay, now the machine's running a little bit better. And then, okay, let's look at this piece over here. Let's tighten that up. Right? It's the little things. Don't try and focus on everything at once. Literally see it like a scientist would. Have one variable that you're testing. You can have a little bit more, but like don't split your focus, because then you don't actually know if it's that variable or not. And sometimes it's easier to say that it's failed than to actually look at the data and take responsibility. And I know, Joy, you're probably watching this. You posted about this in the context of manifestation. When you shame, you're not actually taking responsibility. I made a cute little rhyme. Hope you enjoy it. When you shame, you stay the same because you don't change. You can't change if all we're looking to do is blame. Wow, I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. This is what entertains me. Okay, well, 2 and 3, kind of related. How can we increase online visibility? Where do we have to get started for free? Reaching out to people, asking them to do collabs is free. Right? If you don't have money, you pay with time. Getting started with marketing because of social media is actually free, but it's actually about using the resources that you have. Are you willing to withstand the no's that you're going to get to the yeses? Visibility is a numbers game. Who can you talk to? Who can you say yes? Who can you ask to collab with? Podcasts, Instagram lives, different programs that you can speak in, different communities that you can be a part of, the current communities that you can be a part of. Can we stop being scared to show up in those current communities and be loud and proud about what we do? Can you put up signs and posters in person? All of these add up. And I'll say this again. Your efforts will compound. It's like a bank account. Every time you do something for it, you're not going to see an immediate return, right? A bank account that earns interest. You're not going to see an immediate return. But if you add enough reps, add enough capital into your bank account, it's going to compound and give you returns. So at the start, I would literally try everything. And then if it's a matter of like time, what's your biggest bang for buck? What are you naturally better at? Are you naturally better at speaking? So do you need to go on more podcasts? It really is a numbers game. There are 300,000 podcasts out there. I don't even know that you could reach out to 300,000 podcast owners in a whole year. It's also a long play. Visibility is a long play. People think that you should only do it when you're about to launch. No, you should always be gaining more visibility for your business. And not only should you be trying to get more people to see your stuff, but also trying to increase the rate of which those people see your stuff. So if this week you got 5 new people to see your stuff, how can you aim so that next week you can get 6 and 7? That's how you refine. Okay. Once you know how to get 5 new people to see your stuff, that should be your baseline. There can be exceptions, but that's the way I see it. Once you learn how to do something, You should never go back unless you want it. Obviously exceptions, but that's the way I see it. Okay, 2, mistakes. Forgetting the connection/relatability piece. 2, not making enough touch points or giving yourself a long enough runway. I feel like I touched this. Anyway, yeah. Going too much into marketing that you neglect building brand equity. So all of this I can touch on in like really just sometimes we think I have to be an authority, so I can't be relatable or engage with my community, because if I'm relatable, they won't see me as a leader and they won't come to me, and they have to come to me because I'm not going to chase them. I don't want to chase sales. Are you doing the things that got you the attention and the relationships in the first place? And that's all I have to say on that. Not really. No, I've got more to say. But also using this as feedback, like, are you doing the things to tell your story, to connect people to why you are actually such a powerful leader, because you have a powerful story behind you, right? Are you continuing the conversation? And not just all of a sudden, like before you were in a conversation with your audience and then all of a sudden you're like, yep, cool. Now you have to speak at me. Or I get to speak at you and you can decide whether or not you want to stand behind me. Right? And then second point, like being honest with yourself, are you getting enough inbound DMs? Are you getting enough people like being interested in what you do? So giving yourself a long enough runway. Yeah, of course it's ideal to launch in 7 days. Or maybe you're a little bit like me and you would rather a longer time frame. But of course, it's so like instant gratification, right? I want to launch something tomorrow, sell out, make $200,000. Of course, that's ideal. And yes, there are going to be lurkers, but we actually can't bank on the lurkers being there. So you need to look at data like, okay, even those lurkers, where are they going to be lurking? Are you driving traffic to the application, to your website, and then are you actually monitoring the visitors on your application page or your website? How engaged is your audience? Right? And are you making an effort to make sure that there's a reason and a different like feeling that they get with you and being a part of your community? Just like when you join a club, there are different clubs that you want to go to because there will be different requirements. And so this goes back to building a community that's bought into you. What do they need to participate or meet the requirements of in order to be a part of your community? Like, is it that you ask them things like, what should I have for dinner? What should I do on my day off? Yeah. Like, and this is where also sometimes we stop and this is 3, going too much into the marketing. Sometimes when we're going into launch mode, all of our call to actions might be buy our stuff, but you neglect to build that brand equity. You neglect to give. You neglect to do what you have always done, put out normal content. Yes, your content will have a different focus, but like you don't stop doing the things that got you that attention and the relationships in the first place. And I've said that a lot, but I really think that that's where people go wrong. Are all of your call to actions buy the thing in the link in my bio? Or are you having call to actions that initiate conversations that show that you are still human and that you care about them and that you can be a leader and you can sell stuff, but you also care about them beyond them buying into your program? And once again, most people's relationships with their audience stays the same throughout the launch, where they're like, okay, now is my time to make money, so I'm going to forget about the relationship scale. I see the launch as a perfect vehicle to increase it. People who didn't even know about you before now are obsessed with your work and might not join this round, might not join next round, but they will join. Or maybe they don't, and they're just like champions for your brand. And they're like going out there and telling everyone how awesome you are. How can you deepen that relationship? Right? How can you open up conversations around them, even during a launch? Cool. This one, I love this question. So you can pause it and read it, but I have a lot of thoughts because this is a long question. Even if you are holding the energy right? You should still be taking a bird's eye view and looking at the data. What is actually going on inside of your business? And I've spoken to data before, and I've actually got something to say about this, like the ambiguous way of selling, but that's at the end, a little treat for you. But it's like, are you actually taking a look inside, like what's happening inside of your business? How are, like, what are the data points that you're assessing, right? The DMs, the type of engagement that you're getting, the type of people you're getting inside of your DMs, all of these things, the shares, the saves, the tags. Okay. Are you still doing the things that you did before the launch to build relationships, to maintain the connection, and you're not just coming off as someone who's just selling a program? Because I'm sure we've all been there, where you go onto someone's page and they're in launch mode and you can tell, right? And sometimes what can happen is, when we're holding the energy and when we feel like it's slow, that can be an excuse for us to pull back and to not show up, because what's the point? No one's going to buy anyway. No, are you still pushing to get your stuff in front of other people's eyes, even during the slow times? Because really, we can't control when somebody buys. And so you might be holding the energy, and there might be 3 months where not a lot of new people come into your world. But are you taking that as a chance to deepen the relationships you currently have? Because I see it as, we can only control our inputs. So let's look at literally all of the inputs that we're doing, and then asking ourselves, what's the intention behind this? What was the intention going into it? And then what did the intention end up being? Because sometimes we can also act out of desperation. So, like, look at the way that the audience responds to you. If, like, once again, like the buyer types, what type of responses are you getting? Listen to the conversation that they're having with you. Okay, like, and I'll talk to you a little bit about buyer types, because like we're getting here. But it's like, if you've done the analyzing and you've gone, okay, I think I've got more analytical buyers inside my audience. Are you talking enough about the ROI, the logistics, the data of your program? If you've got people who are more driver buyers, are you talking about your own credentials, and like come in with your dick swinging and pretty much just like triggering their egos, being like, for example, if you're in a season of increasing your price because of your experience, tell a story behind what your experience is, why you're increasing the price, and give them a reason to think that should be them as well. There's a way to empoweringly call people forward, right? And once again, I'll say it again, don't lose the connection and the relationship piece. Continue the conversation with them. Don't pull back. In fact, every time you think that it's slow, I challenge you to do something to show up for your business and see what happens. And now I wanted to touch on this. People can sell in more ambiguous ways, because I actually think that they've curated their audience over years or whatever, however, and this may have been their intention from the get-go, to be a very specific type of buyer, which is the expressive type of buyer. And so they're going to just be bought into whatever this person has. So like, and yes, sometimes it is the big incomes, and that's more of your driver buyers. They're like, oh my gosh, $1 million a month. They must know what they're doing. And so they get to sell in that ambiguous way. And so what a lot of people see is, and this is what's dangerous about this, if you only copy what you see, but you don't understand the strategy behind it, if you don't understand why they're selling in that way, because if 90% of their audience are expressive and driver buyers, they're probably going to put most of their efforts into speaking to expressive and driver buyers. They're not going to so much talk more to the facts, all of the like nitty gritty, because they don't need to, right? And so people in their audience will take everything that they have to say as just law and gobble it up. And you yourself can personally get there, but copying what they're doing straight out the gate without understanding their audience engagement, their conversations that they're having, their traffic, it's very, very like, it's like going in blind, which is very, very dangerous, because you won't get the same result. I can guarantee that. Okay. So like, people get to sell that way. You also get to sell that way, but would you not rather have the foundations to be able to sell to anyone and everyone than to start to force your way to be like, I can only sell to people who will buy from me because they love me? Like, would you not rather learn how to sell to everyone, learn how to communicate with everyone in a, like, to take it back to the conversation, learn how to communicate with everyone so that then you can curate a community who one day you can just pop out something really random and then they'll just buy it. Obviously, being responsible with it, whatever that means for you. Yeah, this is what I would look at. Like, the difference between slow and holding the energy, I think it's just what we make it mean. If it's slow, it means that our launch is flopping. If we're holding the energy, it's empowered because we're waiting for people to catch up. Versus actually needing to refine. I think we should always be refining. So hopefully that answered your question. And I know I went on a big tangent, but I'm so passionate about this. Like, we can be holding the energy, but we can also be looking at the data. People think it's either strategy or mindset, or it's either strategy and mindset or energetics, but it's like everything. It's literally everything. Like, me as a human, is it just the way I look? Is it just the way that my voice sounds? No, it's my spirit. It's the way that I enunciate things. It's this and that. Like, everything is a package. So I actually don't think there's like a difference, but people make it be like, I'm just this. And it's also, I think, a marketing thing. So yeah. And this one, I went over specifically for the person on the live. But for those of you thinking about doing a second thing, keep in mind that I don't know anything about your like revenue levels or whatnot. I would look at your end goal for both ventures, your current capacity, right? So your capacity to do things. What do you actually want to do? Because at the end of the day, like, I can be here convincing you it's a bad idea, but if you really, 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 really want to do it, you're probably going to find a good enough reason to do it. And then also I have something to say about the target audience, because I think that will resonate. But anyway, so the first thing being, what is your end goal? For example, if your business, the end goal is to be able to sell it one day, are you creating systems and allowing it to scale, that allows it to scale without you being in it? Right? Always start with the end in mind, because it's not necessarily a revenue level. If you just want to sell it for 10K, the revenue level required for that might be very different to if you wanted to sell it for 100K. But for me, it's about looking at the end goal. What are the purposes behind the businesses? And then that's going to inform looking at your capacity. With your main venture, with the main thing that you've got, what is your capacity for like bare minimum? And I always like to go for bare minimum. What is the bare minimum that you can do and give to the other second venture? And then you have to ask yourself a few questions. Am I okay with how much I'm able to put in as a bare minimum, as a worst case scenario? Am I okay with the rate of progress that I know that I would get from only giving that much? Right? So like, and if it's a no for both, then it's probably not worth it. Wait until you've got more time. But if you're okay with it, then go ahead. But also capacity looks at not just your energy capacity and your time capacity, but also your financial capacity. If your first venture is providing stability in some sense in your world right now, and you want to add a second venture, I know there are going to be balls dropped somewhere. There's going to be a transition period. Can you afford, do you have the capacity to take on, like to take on that, right? To reduce, to have potentially the income impacted a little bit. And then once again, what do you want to do? You can look at all the logical stuff. You can look at all the reasonable stuff. But if you really want to do this, whatever this is for you, is it worth it for you? Do you want to do it? And that could be enough. That could be enough to outweigh whatever logic I've just thrown at you. And the last thing I actually want to challenge, because I feel like a lot of people will benefit from this, is like, sometimes we get caught up in our personal brand being a business, or our business being a business, that we forget that we also impact people who don't fit, who aren't in the bullseye of our ideal clients. Our business and our personal brand serves as as the entire dartboard. There are going to be people who never buy your stuff, but your stuff will have benefited them, your free stuff. Okay, so it's like when you are looking at audiences, and I wanted to touch on this, it's like, don't automatically discount people because you've grouped them into a box. People are multifaceted. Do your thing, make it like, do your stuff. So like, figure out your brand, your messaging and all of that, so that you can integrate the two. But then that's all you can control. You can't control if they become your ideal client, if they just become consumers of your stuff and supporters, or where on the dartboard they'd fall. Okay. And then I have one last thing, which is a surprise that I promised to thank you for taking the time and spending it with me today. If you would like a workbook to go through to help craft and refine your offers, as well as a checklist for your launches, let me know. I'm creating it for free for those of you who attended this workshop, and it's like for whoever opts in the next 24 hours. So Sunday, 25th of June, 7 p.m. Oh, well, let's say Sunday, 25th of June, Monday, 26th of June, midnight. So Sunday going into Monday. Let's say that's the time cutoff. If you raise your hand between now and then, you'll get it for free, because for transparency, this will be bundled up with that workbook and with the checklist and with a few other things for $47 later as a part of my suite. But if you want it, I can send it out. It will take me about a week to put everything together for you, taking requests as well. But if you want it, let me know. If not, thank you so much for coming today, watching the live, attending the live special, and then watching back this replay. I hope you got something out of it. I would love for you to come into the DMs. Tell me like your main takeaways, what you think, the good, the bad, the ugly. Don't hold back. Words of affirmation are my thing, but I also love feedback, constructive criticism. So throw it at me, I can handle it. But thank you so much for coming, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your weekend, and I shall talk to you all very, very soon. Bye.